Hi, this is Dr. Janae DeVica, and I'm here with my good friend David Bruce Leonard. And today we're going to be talking all about the adrenaline response and how that can either help or hinder your health.
Hi, Janae. How are you?
I'm awesome, thank you.
Right.
I'm in Maui, which
I know,
is
right?
dropping my stress response.
Who could complain?
Seriously, can't
Right.
complain.
Yeah.
I love David, and he has taught me so much, even in just the last week that I've been hanging out with him. And I wanted him to share some of his wisdom with you, so that's why we're here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and where you've come from?
Well, I live on Maui. I practice Chinese medicine here. I'm an aspiring polymath, so I like to do lots of different things with varying degrees of success. But I practice Chinese medicine here. I teach plant medicine. I also teach women's self-defense and personal security. And my partner Jody Baygood and I also teach sacred sexuality, and nature skills. So we have our hands full.
And I would have never thought all of those things sort of pointed towards the adrenaline response and how that works in health, but you've been opening my eyes big time to like all the different ways that we're hyperadrenalized and lots of tools about how to create a more healthy stress response and to bring that down. So
Yeah.
let's just start from the beginning.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I was surprised when I started realizing how common my own personal adrenal response is in my life. How it permeates everything, and it directly increases or decreases my quality of life depending on how I choose to navigate my nervous system.
So as many of you know, I am recovering from several years of serious illness, and a big part of that illness was adrenal fatigue and adrenal collapse. And I've had to learn, it was a matter of life and death. I had to learn how to really modulate my stress response and how to be in the parasympathetic response more than I'm in the sympathetic response. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But I've had to completely change my lifestyle, my mindset, my reactions, my environment. I've had to change everything. And because it's been a matter of life and death for me, I've had to change it and change it fairly quickly. And the health and the wellness that it's brought me on so many levels is just amazing. And I've been getting comments from many people. I noticed that I'm getting the same sort of, illnesses that you're talking about. Like, what do I do? So that's why I want to sit here and have this talk with you today, is so that we can share with our viewers, like, how do you recognize when the stress response is making you sick, and what are some tools you can use to change your environment and change your reactions and change the things that are making you ill so that you can create wellness in your life?
Absolutely. Great. Yeah. There are two parts to the human nervous system. I'm really simplifying and generalizing. There's the sympathetic response and the parasympathetic response. The sympathetic response is what we call fight, flight, or freeze. It's run by adrenaline. And the parasympathetic part of the nervous system is what we call rest and digest, or feed and fornicate. And that is run by acetylcholine. And the sympathetic nervous system, which is the adrenal part, is kind of like the gas. And the parasympathetic response is kind of like the brakes.
And I like to think of, I can't even remember where I heard this, but I heard one time, like, your sympathetic nervous system is like a cat when it's all scared and pissed off, like, right? And then the parasympathetic is when the cat is laying in a nice warm windowsill, just like chilling out,
Purring,
licking its paws and purring.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And I found that that's really interesting because I can kind of like think about that in myself, like, how am I feeling right now? Like the cat,
Right,
like this, or
exactly.
like,
Am I relaxed? Am I
right?
comfortable?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we are adrenalized, we physiologically change when we have adrenal stress. We under high adrenaline states, we lose peripheral vision. Our foveal vision becomes very focused. We literally can't see on the sides of our outer vision. We have auditory exclusion. We literally cannot hear. We have what we call tachypsyche, or time distortion. I don't know if you've ever been in a car accident, but time will seem to slow down. There's all these intense physiological responses when we're under adrenal stress.
And on the inside of us, biochemically, what's happening is our digestion is shutting down,
Right.
because you can't run away from the tiger and digest your food at the same time. So digestion shuts down, your immune system shuts down, all your blood is shunted from, full body circulation into your limbs, so
Right.
you can run and fight, into a small part of your brain so that your alertness is increased and enhanced, and basically the rest of your body is left behind until the emergency is over.
Right, right. We move into our amygdala, into our reptile brain or our frog brain, and we lose the ability to cognate in our frontal lobes, to think clearly when we're in a high adrenaline state.
Absolutely. Okay, so our stress response is our primary survival mechanism. So our stress response is very important to keep us alive
Absolutely.
and to keep us
That's
well.
right.
However, our stress response is meant to be used for acute situations. It's meant to
Right.
be used quickly and then turn off and put us back into the parasympathetic response relatively quickly, so that our body can get back into normal functioning again. Now, when we are in the adrenal response, which is what we're going to be calling hyperadrenalized, right?
Right.
When we have this adrenal response going, and it's happening for long periods of time, that's really an inappropriate function of our stress response. It's
Right.
not meant to happen for long periods of time. So because when your stress response, when you're adrenalized, you're not digesting, you're not resting, your cells aren't reproducing, you're not healing, your immune system's down. If you stay in that state for very long, it starts creating chronic illness.
Right.
When you're in that stress response, we talked about inflammation. Your inflammatory response goes way up while you're in that stress response. And so if you stay in hyperadrenalized for very long, you're going to start noticing the symptoms of chronic illness, like heart disease,
Yeah.
depression,
Yeah.
anxiety, mental fog and confusion, muscle pain, and if it goes on too long, things like autoimmune disorders.
Right. And in our society, the main way I see that is what my Chinese teachers call time disease. That's where we don't give ourselves enough time to get things done. So if you want to stress somebody for a study, you make them do math on a computer, and then you shorten the amount of time it takes them to do that. So, and that's in my life, that's what happens. Right now, for the last 20, 25 years, I've driven like an old man, like a little old man, very slowly. But that happened because I realized when I was driving to work, when I was at an office in Carmel, it would take me 45 minutes to drive there, and I would be really amped up, and I would drive fast, and I would get angry at people, and that would ruin my quality of life. So time disease, not giving ourselves enough time to get things done in the day, is, at least what I see, is what the main cause of adrenal stress in our society.
That's a big deal, and especially for all you super women out there who I work with,
right.
right? Like, you're
Yeah.
working a job, you've got your kids, you're trying to save the world, and you're doing the job of 3 or 4 or 5 super women at the same time, and not giving yourself enough time to slow down and get into that parasympathetic response.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's a bunch of different things you can do in your life when you find yourself overly stressed, or when you feel you have time disease. One of the things that I'll do if I'm late for an appointment is I'll walk to my car in slow motion,
Ooh,
and I'll
How does
just
that work?
walk really slowly.
like actually in slow motion?
Literally, it'll take me maybe 5 minutes to walk 20 feet,
Wow.
or maybe 3 minutes to walk 20 feet, but I'll just move really slowly. And by doing that, I'm going to be 3 more minutes late, but when I get in my car, I'm like relaxed.
Okay. Totally forcing
So that's a
yourself
really
to
good
slow down.
tool. Yeah, forcing
Okay.
your body to move very slowly. That could also go into Tai Chi or Qigong, or anything where you're just your body is controlling your mental response. You're using
Okay.
your physical body, your somatic body, to control your mental response.
Okay. As I was getting trained how to slow down and get into the parasympathetic to heal my body, I had several friends and coaches who were around me most of the time, and I asked them, to keep reminding me to slow down. So normally I'm a person that's like, I'm very snappy, I'm very fast, I talk really fast, I get things done really fast, I'm always zooming around. And I established a bunch of accountability partners
Oh, cool.
who would tell
Yeah.
me, slow down. And they would actually make me like say the same thing again, slower, or do the same thing again,
Right.
slower. And it really brought my attention to how subconsciously I was just, even if I didn't think I was stressed, I was still zooming around and talking fast and doing everything fast. And that created such like this like stress response in my body that I didn't even realize. And when I started doing it slow and talking slow and people
Right.
telling me slow down, like it's amazing how instantly I could just feel a
Exactly.
settling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a number of different tools we can use. One of them is moving slowly. One of them is what I call still point, which is a very simple practice where we close our eyes, we relax our jaw, we let our jaw fall open, and then we imagine we're looking at the back of our eyes from the back of our head. And we just go over and over and over again. So we close our eyes, let our eyes sink back into our head, relax our jaw, and then imagine we're looking at the back of our eyes from the back of our head. And our mouth actually stays open. So that's one way of doing it. That's a really, and you can do that for anywhere between, 10 seconds or 10 years, whatever.
Right.
As a
Just
meditative
doing
state.
it right now, when you were talking about it, I was doing it and I felt my shoulders kind of drop.
Right.
And I felt my body do this kind of like exhale sort of sensation.
Yeah.
And I almost felt, the sensation like right before you go to sleep, how you just get kind of dizzy and your body gets tingly and you're just kind of like dissociating. Like just doing it for whatever, 15 seconds while you're talking about it, I was noticing.
That's a
the
parasympathetic
impact.
state. You cannot fall asleep when in a high adrenaline state. You have to be in a parasympathetic state. And in Chinese medicine, we say that the yang qi rises as stress increases. So you can feel your body as you're dropping into that relaxed state sink. Okay.
So some people think they have to meditate for hours to get relaxed, but that took 15 seconds?
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
Very quick.
yeah. And something else you can do is track what's happening in your body. We call it somatic tracking or somatic
this.
awareness, right?
Yeah.
So just noticing any time when you're feeling something, notice any emotion. Where are you feeling that in your body? And we're going to talk about this a little later when we talk about some Tibetan practices. But where am I feeling a sensation? This is also what we teach in our nature skills class. When people are out in the woods, where am I feeling, wind, heat, cold, touch? Where am I feeling? Just tracking what's happening in our body will naturally make everything slow down.
So doing this in the way I learned it was, mind-blowing for me to do it in a value-neutral way,
Exactly.
right?
No
So-
judgment.
Right, no judgment at all. So can we just take our viewers through a couple examples now? Now, first of all, doing it in a value-neutral way, but also there's feelings of body sensations and there's also feelings of emotions.
Right. So when I do this, I'm focusing on, if emotions come up, I ignore the emotion and I focus on the sensation
Stay on
that
the
the
body
emotion.
sensation.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so let's just go through a really quick run through of what value neutral noticing, sensation noticing would look like.
Okay. So if I'm with my partner and we're having an argument and we're both waiting for the other person to take a breath so we can get our word in, right? We go back and forth. If I notice my anger or my aggression or my rage and I just feel it in my body, I don't judge it.
And that's an emotion. So your anger and your rage is the emotion.
Exactly.
But what's the sensation?
The sensation is value neutral.
Right,
It's
so
just a sensation.
What's the sensation?
So I would feel well, it depends on the kind of anger I'm feeling. But my typically my throat tightens. I feel my shoulders lift. I'll lean forward. My breathing becomes more shallow. Right, so
Okay.
that
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and I
that's
would
the
just
difference
notice
between
that.
body sensations and emotions. So when people say, I'm feeling so angry,
right.
you need to actually go deeper than that to the body sensation. My chest is feeling tight. My throat is feeling tight. I'm feeling
Exactly.
hot.
Right. And the word feeling has two meanings. It can be an emotion or it can be a sensation. And we're talking about sensations in the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And what does that do when you just start
I
focusing
have no
on
idea
the...
how it works.
You don't know
I
how
don't
it
have a
works.
clue.
It just does.
It just works,
It
right?
just works. Okay.
But also brings us home. It brings us home to who we are, because my personal belief is that we're disconnected from the neck down, And that's the same reason we can't feel the earth. We don't take care of our environment because we can't feel stuff. We're so used to all our energy being up, we're talking heads, we have all these great ideas, but we're not feeling. You know, if we could really feel what's happening around us, we would never allow these things to happen. We would never allow a forest to be clear cut if we could feel our bodies. So it's a reclamation. It's something that we deserve as human beings, and it allows us to bring ourselves home.
Yeah, and our sensations, our body sensations, is how we connect with our environment.
Exactly.
It's how we
Or not.
connect. Right, or not.
Right.
So being in our body sensations is how I connect with you as a person,
Right.
how I connect with the environment around me, the house we're in, the sounds outside. So what I'm feeling, hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, our body sensations.
Right.
That's how we interact with our environment, and our environment is basically what shapes us.
And I believe that our body is our shadow or unconscious mind. We're going to talk more about that later, and that the earth is our shadow or unconscious mind. So the more we can drop down here, the more we come home to who we are and
yeah.
to a natural state.